We are back. So, let's start over again. Hey everybody out there in Facebook land. My name is Jeff Rowse, and I am one of the team members here at Field State Dispensary in Florissant, Missouri. Today we are going to talk about cannabinoids. Now, for those of you that would like to follow along at home, please go to our website, myfieldstate.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you will be able to click on events. When you click on events, it will take you to a calendar. Click on today's date. In the description, you will see a URL for a Google presentation. Copy and paste to your own browser, and you can follow along. So, we have two people here in-house. Thank you both very much for coming today.
Absolutely.
Why don't we begin? So, what are cannabinoids? Well, cannabinoids are a group and groups of closely related chemicals that are found in the cannabis plant. Now, what do these cannabinoids do? They can cause feelings of euphoria. Now, for those of you at home that have downloaded our presentation, you can see how we have some words underlined. I put in a little extra effort, folks. That's going to take you to a study that is going to back up these claims that I am making here in this presentation. So just so you don't think I'm full of hot air, we actually did the work. So you can click on that and find out exactly, according to that study, how cannabis causes feelings of euphoria. It can also enhance sensory perception. I don't know about you out there, but sometimes when I smoke cannabis, music sounds a little different. My touch is a little more sensitive. I can hear things a little differently, and my taste and smell are definitely amplified. They can also impart medical benefits, and in my opinion, that's the most important thing about cannabinoids, the medical benefits that they can impart. And when we get into the individual cannabinoids later on, we are going to be talking about their medicinal benefits. Now, what kinds of cannabinoids are there? Well, you have endocannabinoids. Those are produced by the human body. For those of you that didn't know it, we are actually wired to accept cannabinoids. And two of them that our bodies produce naturally are called 2-AG, I put that wrong, that should be 2-AG, and Anandamide. Anandamide is also known as the bliss molecule and was one of the first endocannabinoids discovered by Dr. Mechoulam. Scientists, however, recently figured out that runner's high comes from anandamide and not serotonin or dopamine or anything else. So it's actually our endocannabinoid system that is providing those feelings of euphoria after you go for a nice run. Another type of cannabinoids are called phytocannabinoids, and those are produced by plants. And those are THC, CBD, CBN, all of those we'll be getting into a little bit later. And then finally we have synthetic cannabinoids. And synthetic cannabinoids are artificially made from a combination of chemicals. I don't know if you folks remember, maybe about 15 years ago, there was a pretty big problem in the country with spice and K2, two synthetic cannabinoids. And what you see there on screen, that's exactly what it was. Essentially potpourri that had been sprayed with synthetic chemicals. These synthetic chemicals, K2 and spice, are also what's known as full agonists on our receptors in our endocannabinoid system. And what that means is they activate them way more than regular cannabis actually does. And that's why you heard stories of people biting the faces off of homeless people. Synthetic cannabinoids. You may have also heard of marinol. Marinol is a synthetic version of THC that is often given to cancer patients when they're going through chemotherapy. But it is in fact synthetic. Now, you also have probably heard very recently about two new synthetic cannabinoids, delta-8 and THCO. Now, we have those cannabinoids, and they are synthetic because they are derived from CBD. They are chemically synthesized and removed from CBD molecules and turned into delta-8 THCO, and I'm sure down the road we are going to see plenty of other cannabinoids coming onto the market. Now, here at Field State, you will not see us carry any synthetic cannabinoids. Natural cannabinoids only. Now, what forms do cannabinoids take? There are some called broad spectrum, which products contain a selective range of cannabinoids, but no THC. And you have full spectrum products. They contain a selective range of cannabinoids, but include THC. Then you have distillate. This is what a lot of vape carts are made from. It's high percentages of THC, but with a full range of other cannabinoids. And finally, you have isolates, which are pure single cannabinoids only, and quite often those are found in their acidic form. We currently carry a product right now that has THCA crystals in terpene sauce. One of our employees actually referred to that as chips and salsa. But from what he said, it was quite delicious, and he enjoyed the medicinal benefits of the acidic form of the cannabinoid. Now, how do cannabinoids work? Cannabinoids interact with a series of receptors that are found all throughout our body. And these receptors form what is called the Endocannabinoid System, or the ECS. Now, the ECS regulates our body's homeostasis, or equilibrium, throughout our 11 systems. And it wasn't until I started researching this that I found out human beings have 11 systems: immune, intestines, liver, cardiovascular, lungs, brain, spleen, pancreas, reproductive, muscles, and bones. 11 separate systems that our endocannabinoid system helps to regulate. Now, cannabinoids work together with other compounds found in cannabis, such as terpenes and flavonoids, to create what is known as the entourage, or more specifically, the ensemble effect. While we're talking about this, sometimes we have patients that come in and say, give me the highest THC percentage you have, because they think that's going to provide them the most medicinal benefit. That is not the case. It's the cannabinoids, THC, CBD, CBN, working together with a series of terpenes, pinene, limonene, terpinolene, and flavonoids. That's going to be for an educational presentation down the road. But all of them work together to create the entourage, or the ensemble effect. Now, what are the names and benefits of some cannabinoids? We're going to start with THC, the one everybody's heard the most of, and the most abundant cannabinoid in cannabis. So, in the studies I found, as far as pain goes, it is a good analgesic. And in this particular study, rats with neuropathic pain, in a study of rats with neuropathic pain, CB1 receptors in their brain and spine were upregulated. This particular test, they put mice on hot plates and registered how quickly they lifted their hind paws. And that's how they determined that it has analgesic effects. THC is also anti-inflammatory. It is 20 times the anti-inflammatory power of aspirin and twice that of hydrocortisone. Kind of makes you wonder why you need to go to the pharmacy.
Don't come here.
Now, THC is also an antispasmodic, but it needs to be combined with CBD to become effective in regulating that spasticity. And that particular study up there is going to talk about THC and CBD reducing epileptic seizures and spasticity. And then finally, for THC, it is an antidepressant. In 2 different rat behavioral models, THC displayed antidepressive actions using doses as low as 2.5 milligrams per kilogram. Now, with humans, we deal with milligrams per gram. They're talking about 2.5 milligrams per kilogram for a tiny little rat. So imagine just that tiny amount was able to have an antidepressant effect on rats. what a slightly larger amount will have on humans. The next cannabinoid we're going to talk about is CBD. It is the second most found cannabinoid, and it is a powerful analgesic. It reduced the sensitivity to pains in the paws of rats after 7 days worth of treatment. It's also an anti-inflammatory. CD2 activation, which is one of the receptors in our body, it leads to a reduction of oxidative stress and inflammation. So its anti-inflammatory properties actually prevent cells from oxidizing. And here we go. It is an antioxidant. CBD can capture free radicals, or it can actually change them into less active forms. Free radicals being the cells that run around our bodies and cause havoc, making us not feel well. And finally, it's an analgesic. What that means is it helps with anxiety. And in this particular study, it found that CBD at doses between 300 and 600 milligrams was effective at reducing post-traumatic stress disorder, symptomatic SAD, and GAD. Those are different types of attention disorders. Next is CBN. CBN you are going to start seeing in products on the shelves, mostly in nighttime products, because CBN is actually what THC becomes when it starts to degrade and get old. It's an analgesic. In this study, it had decreased sensitization in pain in rats, and the effects lasted longer when combined with CBD. Again, examples of the ensemble effect. Not just one cannabinoid doing the job, cannabinoids working together to create the effect. It's also an anti-inflammatory. It decreased the allergen-induced mucus produced in mice. So they were able to snot up the noses of mice and use CBN to reduce the inflammation and prevent mucus production. And it's also an anti-insomnia. This study goes all the way back to 1975. The volunteers were given THC, CBN, and THC and CBN combined. And volunteers reported feeling more drugged, dizzy, and drowsy taking THC and CBN combined, than just Delta-9 THC on its own. Our next cannabinoid is going to be CBG. This is the mother of all cannabinoids. In fact, the acidic form of CBG, CBGA, is called the mother of all cannabinoids because every other cannabinoid is derived from CBGA. It forms first in the plant, all other cannabinoids come after. CBG is also an anti-inflammatory. The study on guinea pigs showed that CBD and CBG formulated together exhibited anti-inflammatory activities. It's also an antidepressant. CBG and serotonin both bind to the same receptor in the body called 5-HT1A. And that suggests that because it is active at the same receptor as serotonin, that it plays a role in helping regulating our moods. As we know, our bodies pump up the serotonin when we're not feeling so good, and it makes us feel better. CBG binds to the same receptor. CBG is also an anti-proliferative. What that means is it helps to destroy cells. And it was found to prevent the rapid growth of melanoma cancer cells. And it's also a neuroprotective. This particular study indicates that CBG might have therapeutic potential for treating neurodegenerative diseases by engaging different cellular and metabolic death pathways. And our last cannabinoid that we are going to talk about tonight is THCV. It's a very powerful anti-inflammatory. This Italian study showed that THCV reduced inflammation in mice by blocking the receptivity at the CB1 receptor, forcing activity to happen at the CB2 receptor. THCV also indicates glycemic control. It helps lower fasting glucose, which is the amount of glucose or sugar that's in your blood after an overnight sleep. CBD can actually help lower those numbers. And it can also help with weight loss. In this particular study, which was done on humans, they used chocolate and pictures of moldy strawberries. Weird, I know, but this is how it worked. To determine that THCV has an effect upon the reward center of the brain. It's best if you actually check out the study yourselves, but what they did was they gave people chocolate, then they showed people pictures of moldy strawberries and figured out how they responded to it. And by figuring out those responses, they determined that it affects the reward center of the brain, making people feel less hungry. So THCV, you may actually heard of being called as the diet weed because it doesn't give you the munchies, it actually helps to suppress your appetite. Now, how can you consume these cannabinoids? The easiest one, and the one we're all familiar with, is smoking. You can get the benefits of all of these cannabinoids by consuming them through fire. But you can also get effects from them by eating edibles. That's going to give your body a chance to fully digest them, fully work their way into your endocannabinoid system, down through your digestive, into your liver. And then the last way to consume, topicals. This particular product we carry here at Field State, Amend, it is a 1-to-1-to-1 equal amounts THC, CBD, and CBG. I use this at home for my arthritis and the muscular pain that I have in my back. There's also another way to consume cannabinoids, and that's through a tincture. Tincture is going to be a liquid oil form. You put a couple of drops under your tongue. It goes into your bloodstream through the mucous membranes in your mouth. Because it hits your bloodstream faster, you are going to feel the effects faster than consuming an edible. Smoking, the effects are going to happen pretty quick. Topicals, you place it immediately on the area of effect and you should feel it right away. Now, do we have any questions in-house? Yes.
So about the topical, what all does it affect? Like, say I have plantar fasciitis in my heel, can I put it on my heel? Will that help with that?
Not sure if it's going to help with plantar fasciitis.
Okay.
What it helps for me, I have a back injury about 15 years ago. The muscles never healed properly. From time to time, they tighten up. I will get twinges of pain that nothing will stop. That product stops it. I put it immediately on the area of effect, and it does its job. And the weirdest thing is, I've never quite felt an effect like it before. It's not like Bengay or Icy Hot. It feels like there's something there, and I know it's doing something, but it doesn't feel like Bengay or Icy Hot. Like blowing on it is going to make it feel weird or anything like that. It works really well.
Okay, that was my other question.
Okay. Did you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Does anybody out in Facebook have any questions?
Go over like the different ratios. The
Go over the
type
ratios.
1, type 2, type 3.
Okay. We have different types of ratios when it comes to cannabis. Most people are familiar with the paradigm indica, sativa, and hybrid. In actuality, these days everything's a hybrid. There's been so much crossbreeding between strains that if you want a true land race, a plant that popped up out of the ground because God dropped the seed there, you've got to go to the Afghan mountains to get a kush. You've got to get some Durban poison down in South Africa. Here in America, land race strains are very hard to find. But people are locked into indica, sativa, hybrid. They figure indica into couch, sativa is going to be uplifted, and hybrid is going to be some kind of a combination of the two. But because everything's a hybrid, and it's more than just THC percentages, it's about how many terpenes, how many flavonoids, we are trying to redefine that experience by calling it type 1, type 2, and type 3. Type 1 is going to be high in THC. Type 2 is going to be far more balanced, closer to a 1-to-1, equal amounts THC and CBD. A type 3 is going to be predominantly CBD dominant or other cannabinoid dominant products. Now, when you go to a dispensary, you can find those products. They are called ratio products. If you see a 1-to-1, a 2-to-1, a 10-to-1, that means you're looking at products with 10 times the amount of CBD to THC. So a 2-to-1 would be twice the amount of CBD, a 1-to-1, equal amounts. Now, why would you want a ratio product? Mostly because some people don't feel comfortable being high. THC overstimulates their endocannabinoid system. They start feeling maybe a little anxious, maybe a little paranoid. They don't like feeling that way. You can mitigate those problems by adding CBD. CBD and THC both bind to the same receptors, and when THC is in that receptor and CBD comes along, it knocks THC out of kilter, lessening THC's effects. So, if you want to feel less high, you get yourself a ratioed product. Now, here at Field State, we do have a chemovar that is a 2-to-1, twice the amount of THC to CBD. One is 11%, the other is 5%. You really don't see very high CBD chemovars in a dispensary because everybody's chasing the THC. But part of the reason we do educational presentations like this is we want to change the paradigm. It ain't indica sativa hybrid, it's type 1, type 2, type 3. It's your percentages of cannabinoids, working with terpenes, working with flavonoids. Do we have any other questions?
Just come through this page.
Okay.
And to the next one.
All right, so I've been asked to go over
Just those 2 pages of the
just those 2 pages. If I can get the page to go down for me.
report up on there too.
Huh?
Report right there too. Back item.
Oh, yeah.
10,
What the heck are you talking about?
10 and 11.
10 and 11. Okay, so we're going to talk additionally about different methods of consumption, choosing a chemovar and starting low and going slow. So, choosing a method of consumption. What are the different methods? We already talked about that. You can smoke, you can take a tincture, you can consume an edible, or you can apply a topical. How do you choose your chemovar though? That's where it gets hard for some patients. They come in chasing that THC, and when they hear about terpenes or other things, they're not exactly sure what to do. So, when you try to choose a chemovar, you are always going to want to look for the terpene profile. Terpenes are secondary chemicals that grow alongside of cannabinoids in the cannabis plant that help give the plant its taste, its smell, and in the growing of the plant, it acts as a protective from insects for it. But they also have medicinal benefits for human beings. So, when you go to your dispensary, ask your bud tender, what is the terpene profile of this product? If they don't have it on the label, ask to see the COA, the Certificate of Analysis. All dispensaries receive a COA on the products that they get, which give a complete chemical breakdown of all the noids, all the terps, all of the chemicals that were used to grow that plant as well. So, ask your bud tenders, what is the terp profile? Now this is where you're going to be guinea pigging yourself a little bit, because you're going to have to find out what terps work best for you. So let's take a terpene like alpha or beta pinene. That's going to provide some very uplifting effects for you. If that is what you want, a chemovar that's going to get you up off the couch and helping you clean your kitchen, you're going to look for something with those kind of terpenes in it. But if that is going to overstimulate your ECS, start making you feel too stimulated, you're going to want to stay away from the uplifting cannabinoids because we don't want to trigger any anxiety or anything else. So we're going to look for different terpenes like myrcene or beta-caryophyllene, something that's going to provide a little bit more sedative effect for you. So in this book, our personal guidebook, in the very back, we have these blank pages, these blank journal pages, and they are there so that our patients can help document their journey as they go along. By filling this out, you will be able to track every step of the way what products you have used, the effects that they have had on you, whether they work for you or not. Very important. So if you go to our website, myfeelstate.com, you can download this guidebook, and you can also download extra journal pages for free. Or you can simply come down here to the dispensary. We'll be happy to give you one of these. We also do consultations. There you go. If you would like to learn more about cannabis beyond what we've talked about today, if you would like to go through this guidebook right here, again, go to our website, sign up for a free 15-minute or half-an-hour consultation. We can do it for you over the computer, or we can come down here to the dispensary. We have a private consultation room. These consultations are available not only for medical card holders, but non-card holders as well. It is very important for us here at Feel State that our patients and their kin are as educated as they possibly can be. It is only through education that we collectively are going to be able to break the stigma about cannabis and normalize it as it should.
Amen.
All right.
Wrap it up.
I think we're going to wrap it up there. I would like to thank everybody out there in Facebook land for watching this. Again, if you're just tuning in now and would like to follow along with the presentation on the TV, go to our website, go to our calendar, go to today's date, October 20th. You will find a link that you can copy and paste to a new browser window, and you'll be able to follow along. You'll also be able to access the hyperlinks to the studies for every underlying word in that presentation. Guys, thank you so much for coming in person. Folks out there in cyberspace, thank you all so much for watching.